Welcome back, everybody, to day 7 of learning SQL. We've been at this for 7 days in a row. We've learned a ton in the process. We're going to keep going. So today we're going to be talking about self joins, actually taking a table and joining it to itself to provide some type of data. Now, believe it or not, there's actually a lot of good uses for a self join. And so we're going to work through an example today in our gym database. So if you remember, we have a database for a gym that has a variety of facilities, and we have a table for our bookings, our facilities that are available, and our members. Now, if we go ahead and select everything from our cd.members table, you can see that the primary key for this table is here, memID. And then if we scroll all the way over, you can see that for every member that exists in our member table, there is a column here that has a value that could show if they were recommended by another member from the gym. And if they are, then that member's member ID is going to be placed in this column. So for example, we have member ID 4 here, and if we scroll all the way over, we can see that she was recommended or sent an invite to the gym from member ID 1, which happens to be Darren Smith. So if we were given a problem to say we want to see the first name and last name of a member, and then we want to see their member ID, and then we also want to see the member ID and first name and last name of whoever recommended them all in one table, how would we do that? So let's go ahead and work through it. So the first thing is we're going to go ahead and select everything from our cd.members table, which is what we have here. And what we need to do is we need to provide SQL with an alias for this table, because you can imagine if we have two of the same table, how is SQL going to know which table we're referring to if they both have the same name? So we need to provide separate aliases for each table, or for the original table and the table that we're joining. So I'm going to go ahead and just name this one as mem for member. And then the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and do join. Now, keep in mind, we're technically doing an inner join here. We can do different types of joins as well, but we're using the same table. But for this particular example, we're going to use an inner join because we only want to see guests that were actually recommended by another member. And so if they were not recommended by another member, you're going to see a null value. So we're just going to get rid of those members by using an inner join. So we're going to inner join cd.members. And we're going to do this as REC, which is recommended. And so now we have both of our tables. We have to say, how do we want to actually match these up? So we're going to say on, and here's where we use our aliases, members, so MEM dot, and you got to remember, we want to match up the recommended by with the member ID of who was recommended. So we got to make sure and use the recommended by for our member table. Set that equal to rec, which is the recommended table, and then we have to use the member ID. Now, if we go ahead and run this, you can see, and we'll narrow this down here in a second, but you can see we have member ID 4, who was recommended by member ID 1, and then you can see we then have the information for member ID 1, who happens to be Darren Smith. So let's go ahead and now select the columns that they're asking for, using the aliases that we made. So let's start with, we're going to have mem dot, and we're going to do the member ID. So mem ID is going to be the ID for the original member. Then we're going to go ahead and do mem dot first name. We're going to do mem dot surname. Then we're going to go ahead and use the next table, which is our recommended table. We're going to do mem ID for the person. I'm sorry, let's actually add one more here. We're going to do mem dot recommended by. We can see who they were recommended by. Then we're going to do the user they were recommended by. We're going to get their mem ID, then their first name, and their surname. So let's go ahead and run this. Doesn't look like we have any errors. And let's take a look at our results. So we have the member ID of the member, their first name, last name, who they were recommended by, which is member ID 1. Then we have member ID 1 here, which was joined up through our inner join with their first name and their surname. So this is perfect. This is exactly what we were looking for. So as you can see, we could use this in a variety of different ways, but it's always good to know that we can do any type of join we would like. For example, an inner join like we used here. We could even do the left join. If we wanted to actually see the people who um, weren't actually recommended by anybody, but we wanted to make sure that we had everybody in that table. Let's go ahead and run this. And as you can see, now we have everybody in the table. And if they were not recommended by anybody, you're going to see that the rest of the information provided is actually null. But for the people who were recommended to the gym by someone, we have the information, right? So we can use a variety of different join types, but we just have to remember that we have to use those aliases referencing the same table to make sure that SQL knows which table we're referencing when we're doing our columns and our join, or else we're going to get some type of ambiguity error. So thank you for watching. We'll catch you back for episode 8 tomorrow.